Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Carol. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know, one of the things that people always think about when it comes to real estate is, do I really live in the right home for the right time in my life? And that's something we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about downsizing. You know, sometimes people are worried about downsizing. One of the biggest challenges that they face is the cost of it. And one of those costs is their taxes. You know, the tax base that we have is based on the purchase price of your home. Now, it is interesting to think about the fact that values have gone up so significantly. And one nice thing about home ownership is that your taxes will not increase more than 2% a year. So if you think about it, our market over the last 10 years has gone significantly higher than it was. So if in fact we didn't have that limitation on the tax base and our taxes were based on that price that the value had gone up, that would be a big issue. Well, the other thing is that maybe you live in the house that isn't appropriate for you right now. Maybe you live in a house that you bought when you were raising your children. Maybe you've got a pool that you never get into anymore. Maybe you've got rooms that you don't use. Or let's face it, maybe you just want something a little bit smaller so that you can take time to travel and enjoy yourself. Well, you can do that by actually taking advantage of some of these taxes I'm going to tell you about. There is a provision, it's called Proposition 19, and Prop 19 allows you to take your tax base with you. Now, this graph shows you that we have enjoyed appreciation over the last 10 years. If you bought a house 10 years ago, right now, it's probably worth almost double, 192% over that last 11 years. That's a lot. Now, that equity is sitting there, and equity gives you choices, but only if you use it. And so if right now you're sitting on a lot of equity, or perhaps you own your home free and clear, and maybe you're thinking, well, I don't have a house payment, but I don't really need all of this house either. Well, let's talk about that, because there are choices. You've got things that you can do differently. In today's market, refinancing isn't necessarily an option because of the fact that the interest rates have gone up so high. So pulling out that equity maybe isn't going to make financial sense for you if you have to refinance and take a higher interest rate on that entire amount. But what might make sense for you is to downsize into something that makes more sense. There are benefits to downsizing. Benefits to a smaller home might include a smaller house payment or no house payment. It might give you a better price on your energy bills. Maybe a smaller home or a more efficient home would lower those costs for you every month. Perhaps you don't have to clean that big house anymore that you don't even utilize. Or let's face it, a lot of people don't enjoy mowing that lawn and taking care of those big yards. So those are all things that you could change, and that would change your lifestyle. I'm not talking about moving into a house that you can't fit your things into necessarily, but I think if we walk around and we look through our home, there's probably quite a bit of things that we don't need or don't use anymore. So honestly, we're doing our kids a favor to do a little bit of downsizing. If you go from this home, perhaps you're going to go to something more like this home. I'm certainly not talking about going to a tiny home. Very few of us could ever live in a tiny home, but I do think it might be a good opportunity for you to consider making that one step into that, from that 2-story into that 1-story. That'll give you a little bit more ease in your day and give you a little bit more of a relief on some of the things that you're paying for right now. Or maybe you could take a vacation. Doesn't that look wonderful? I think we'd all enjoy being on that beach today. Now, the one thing I want to tell you about is Proposition 19. In November of 2020, so this is not necessarily a new law, but there are certainly new rules. You might remember the old Proposition 13. It allowed you to transfer your tax base. But on that law, you had to stay within the county and you could not deviate much from the price of the home that you were selling into the home that you were purchasing. So those were limitations that made it very, very difficult. But I will tell you that now with Prop 19, if you're 55 or older, which they consider a senior citizen, by the way, if you are disabled or have been the victim of a wildfire or a natural disaster, you are eligible to transfer your assessed value of your current primary residence into your replacement primary residence. Now, this does not apply on rentals. This is only for your primary home that you live in. Now, the biggest change of this rule, like I said, is that it removes the location issue. So you can go anywhere in the state of California. You could sell here and you could move to where you're closer to your grandkids. You could move to the coast. You could move to the mountains. You can go anywhere your heart's desired. And there's no limitation on that location. You just have to stay in the state of California. The second thing is the price restriction. There used to be price restrictions. There was a certain percentage that you could not go above or below. That's gone. Now, if let's say, for instance, you sell a home that's $600,000 and you purchase a home that's $750,000, you take your tax base from the first $600,000 that you have been paying to the new home, and then you just pay the adjusted rate on the balance. So that $150,000 will be on the new tax base rate. That is significant, especially for people that have been in their homes for a long time. So if you have been thinking about the fact that you don't want to go up and down those stairs anymore, you don't want to clean that third bathroom, and you're sick of looking at that pool, this might be a good option for you. Now, how does this help everyone? It really, truly does help the housing market, because it allows seniors who felt that they could not sell because of their current property tax to make that move. It also helps by moving those people out of the larger homes and freeing those larger homes up for the next generation to move into those homes. And then those homes that those folks are selling to move into your home, that frees that up for first-time buyers. So it's definitely a trickle-down effect. Now, if you have done this, if you have sold that larger home if you have sold your larger home to transition into a smaller home, for instance, or you've just made a move and you're over 55 and you did not know that you could take your transfer of that tax base, it's not too late. You can do it anytime within the first 2 years after you close escrow. And this started April 1st of 2020. So if in fact you've done that and you didn't know that you could take that old tax base, it's not too late. You might want to call your CPA or your tax advisor, because I'm certainly not a tax accountant or an attorney, but I'm just here to tell you that the county will do that for you. It is not done through the escrow. It's actually something that's done after we close escrow. You contact the county and they will do that for you. They'll send you the appropriate forms. Now, if you're not 55, but you still want to downsize, remember that if you owned and lived in your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years before the sale, you then are able to take $250,000 of profit tax-free. If you're married and you file a joint return, your tax-free amount doubles. So you get $500,000 of your profit tax-free. That's huge. Now, if you have owned a home during this cycle of our real estate market and you have benefited from all of that equity, you may be thinking it might be time to take that money and run, because that's one of the only ways you're going to be able to tap into that equity. Otherwise, you're just going to ride that roller coaster with the rest of the population, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are seeing dollar signs that you're sitting on, you may be sitting on a gold mine. So it might be a good time for you to think about that. If you are curious about what your current equity position is, please message me. Put it over here in the chat because I am happy to help you to understand and to know where you're sitting and what your options are. Make it a great day.